So hello and welcome to session 12, ETD Formatting Users Group meeting. This session is being recorded. Moderating well, leading us all is our fearless leader, Sally Evans of George Mason University Libraries. My name is Teri Green. I'll be your moderator for the next 50 minutes. Quick reminder before we begin, if you're not speaking, keep your audio muted, please. You can raise your hand to participate in the conversation or use the Zoom chat tab to ask questions, which will be addressed, I'm assuming throughout or maybe all at the end. If this is to resemble our prior formatting user group meetings, it should be a wild, fun ride. So thank you again for joining us, and I will turn it over to the very capable Sally.
Thank you so much, Teri, and thank you for the utterly unwarranted compliment of capable. Thank you to everyone for joining us today. My name is Sally Evans. I'm the coordinator of University Dissertation and Thesis Services for George Mason University. And I'm also part of the committee for the USETDA Formatting Users Group. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it today, but we're also going to talk about formatting issues. So if you aren't a member of the users group, I encourage you to join if you're interested. There will be information later in the session about how to join. Also, if you are attending today and you have questions, or if you're experiencing issues with formatting related issues in your own position, or if you have been able to overcome a problem, or if you've had any wins in the past year, we would love to hear from you. So first, this is just a quick intro for what we do. Okay, so first, and I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but I'm the only person in my position at my university. So my first question is, do you feel as if no one at your institution gets you, that you're just all alone? Do you feel that you deal with issues that nobody else cares about, that you're, treading water, doing your best, and even when you try to bring up issues you're experiencing, people just, even if they're sympathetic, they just sort of nod and smile and say, that's really sad. I hope you fix that. Do you think that you are never, ever going to fix the LaTeX template? I've attended many sessions in the last couple of days where people have done amazing things with LaTeX and are still doing amazing things. And if those people are not already in our sessions, I know some of them are. If you're not already in our sessions, please do, because I know a lot of people have issues with LaTeX. I am one of them. So if you have a LaTeX template, but it's the bane of your existence, then we can hopefully help. But if you're dealing with all of this, then it's time to get excited, because the Formatting Users Group is here to help. That's what we're here for. So what do we do? Our group launched in February 2021. We try to give our colleagues time and a place to talk about issues they're having, to get help, to often crowdsource information and assistance. We have a variety of formats for our meetings. Sometimes we have someone come in and give a presentation, or a few people give a presentation. Other times it's just free-form discussion. Other times members will reach out, and the last meeting we had a couple of weeks ago was a really great one. It started with questions about Word and issues that people were seeing with Word, and it really launched into a lot of other things. So we just try to be a resource for one another, and often I've personally gotten a lot of help with things that I've experienced in my own position, just reaching out to the group and saying, I don't know how to fix this. I hope somebody does. Or someone reaches out and says, how did you fix this on yourself, for yourself in your own organization? So we discuss a lot of different things, and accessibility, format standardization, that's a conversation we have a lot. Talking about modernizing formatting rules, because we are the Electronic Thesis and Dissertation Association. So some people still do want printed copies. That's my phone. Some people do want printed copies, and that's great, but we're working with electronic mostly. So we try to provide a professional community of like-minded people who have dealt with the same challenges and who want to help others. We meet every other month on the second Wednesday at 2 p.m. at Eastern Time. So these are some of our upcoming meetings. We just had the most recent one in September. The next meeting is November 12th. Then we have one January 14th, March 11th, May 13th, July 8th, and then September 9th. And I just gave them for the next year. I will be, once I've created everything, created all of the sessions in Zoom, I'll be sharing those. We do record the sessions. I record them on Zoom, and I know Zoom only retains things for a certain amount of time, so I try to save them in a better format, but I've had some issues with that. So if you would be interested in joining us, please reach out to me. You can email me, sevans13, so SEVANS13 @gmu.edu. We would love to have you join us, and we hope to help you or have you help us because we know you can. So I am going to close the slides for now and put it out there to others. Is anyone having any issues right now that you would like help with? Do you have something you'd like to share that has gone well for you? Is there something that you've learned in the last couple of days that you would like to talk about? So I'm going to leave it up to any brand new folks who are visiting us for the first time. Oh, hi, Molly.
Hello, I'm very excited to be part of the group. I've just signed up on the form.
Oh, fantastic.
I have a kind of interesting combination because I do quite a bit of the administrative side as well as the formatting checking. And I'm very curious about a couple of specific things. One in particular is coming up more and more frequently lately. And I'm just curious to know if anybody else has experienced it or if you have a policy or procedure in place. Multi-paper dissertations is a very common usage, and more, the sentiment that I'm getting from some faculty is that we require papers to be formatted consistently throughout the document. So if they're utilizing a paper that they published in a different format, we require them to adjust the format or adjust the rest of the paper to make sure that's consistent. I've gotten some pushback from faculty recently about why that's a requirement. So for me, it's a bit of a common sense thing where it's like, well, it looks better, but I'm curious to know if anybody else has experienced that and if you have a different procedure for multi-papered dissertations or even theses where some of the chapters might have been formatted in a different way and the faculty and the students want to just leave them as is and kind of throw them all into one document, which I don't know how I feel about that. So curious to know if anybody else has experienced that.
Excellent. We have a few comments in chat. Wendy says, we tell students that the dissertation is a unique document and therefore must be consistent throughout. And I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. Arashiel says, I haven't experienced the pushback. We don't allow them to throw them as is into the document. So, and if anyone else has any input, I'll give my input just because I have. What the decision that we made at Mason is anything that goes in the body of the document. So basically, between the general abstract and the appendices, even the general appendices, has to look like our formatting guidelines. They have to, have the same, everything has to be in the same margins no matter what, but it has to be our rules. Text has to be black. It has to be, the margins have to be set a certain way. Text spacing has to be a certain way, and so on and so forth. It has to be single column. If a student and sometimes I've run into this. A student has published already in a journal, and the journal has like a clause that says you can reproduce this, but it has to look exactly like it does post-production. And in that case, in that case, we've just been letting the students, if they have something that they absolutely can't change into our formatting guidelines, then they can include it. But what they do is put it in an appendix. So like the first page, like for that chapter, it would, have the title of the manuscript, and then it would just have a paragraph that says, this has already been published in blankety blank journal. You can please see. Then they have a couple of choices. Please see it in Appendix A, or if they want to provide a link, both put it in Appendix A, Appendix whatever, and provide a link to it in an outside source. Then they're welcome to. But if they can't change it, it has to go like that. I did have a very weird one recently that I just wasn't ready for, and we've actually had to start crafting guidelines for them. And this was actually something I asked about within our group listserv with our chat. I actually had a student turn in a dissertation that had 3 completely post-publication manuscripts. And they and I didn't even feel like fighting the fight. I was just like, okay, you know what? Just we'll go ahead with it. Like everything else is formatted correctly. Your chapters will just consist, or maybe you'll just, I can't remember what he did, if he had 3 different chapters or if he just had like one chapter that just said, please see the appendices. But after that, then I started working with my colleagues to craft new guidelines because I was not expecting that. So that was something I mean, I've had others where it's been 2 formatted according to our guidelines, 1 in the appendices, but that was the first time I've had basically nothing in the body. So I'm going to have to come up with nothing in the body other than please see the appendix. So I think our rule is going to be there has to be at least one thing, at least one, if not more, formatted according to our guidelines in the body. Otherwise, it's like, why are you even writing a dissertation? I mean, I understand why, but at the same time, yeah. So, Kimberly, you have your hand up.
Hi. Um, at BGSU, we make them formatted exactly like any other dissertation and tell them that each journal has its way that it wants it formatted. Therefore, a dissertation is formatted this way. This
Yeah.
is the way, you know.
That has been what
So-
I used. I think, I have a lowly bachelor's degree and I'm very, particular in what I do. And so to me, it makes common sense. And so sometimes when I get feedback from specifically people who have been faculty members for 20 plus years who are telling me, well, why do I have to do this? It takes me aback a little bit because I'm not sure if maybe I'm missing something in the track of academia and the path that it's on. So it's comforting slash very helpful to hear how you have approached those situations, and it can maybe give me some better talking points rather than because it's the rules and it makes it look better.
Exactly.
So it's
This
very,
is
very
it.
helpful.
It's 1-inch
Thank you.
margins, it's Times New Roman, it's a 12-point font. Have a great day.
And
It's
that's
double
my
spaced.
thing too. To your point, Kim, it's just like any other publication. There are requirements for the formatting, so we have to adhere to them. So I really
Well,
appreciate
I
that.
do
It's
agree
helpful
that
to
with the appendices, we're, of course, when people bring those things in, we're not as picky as we are with the rest of the document. However, if you're calling it a chapter, even though it's previously published, then it needs to look like our formatting.
Yeah, yeah.
And we don't get a lot of pushback on that. We really don't.
Well,
It's
I'm
only
lucky.
been recently that they've really started to become more vocal about it, and it's, only from a few publications, but in preparation for it, I thought I'd look to the contingent of those who are probably running into the same situation and maybe see if you had any advice. So I really appreciate it.
Well, good
What
luck with that, Molly.
Terry, I see your hand up, but I just want to say this really fast. One thing that has helped me to tell students is when they're like, why do we have to do this? This is stupid. What has helped is to tell them, I promise you that no matter what university you went to, unless there is some university somewhere, and I know that BYU has been having some issues with this. I don't know if we have a BYU person here today, but I know that BYU has been dealing with this. But what I've told them is, as far as I know, every other university, if you attended any other university, you would have to deal with some form of formatting guidelines. This is not just our university trying to torture you. This is everybody has some form of them somewhere. It's not just handwrite everything in crayon and turn it in. You have to everybody has to have some form of standard. And we even have kind of loose standards ish. I mean, there are some that are harder than others, but for when someone asks me about font, the only rules we really have for font, it has to be black, it has to be readable, and the committee has to approve of it. So if someone wants to write their entire dissertation in papyrus and their committee approves, it's your dissertation. Go right ahead. So Terry, go ahead.
Yes. So, Molly, I feel you about, this power differential, right, with faculty and so forth. Um, but our formatting manual was created and approved by our grad council. They're the ones who have said this is what we're going to do. And so we have had newer faculty members that have come in since then, and they're questioning, and it's like, well, if you don't like it, I guess you can go to the grad council, and make your case. But we really haven't had pushback. We have it laid out, exceptions to the formatting manual, which includes when they're including manuscript chapters. And so there is no such thing as like, it's just 3 chapters and it's the papers. They have to have an introduction. They have to have a final discussion or summary chapter that ties everything together. And they also have to have an all-inclusive references section, regardless if they've included it individually in chapters. And, they can, if they're using different citation methods or, different writing structure according to journals, that's fine. But what cannot be displaced is font size, color, style, margins. I mean, the presentation, what it looks like. So that's it in a nutshell.
That makes me feel a lot better because, again, I'm very siloed. It's a small university. We're in Idaho, so, don't even bring up accessibility around us. Just kidding. But so the idea of getting to learn from other potentially larger, different institutions is really helpful for me. So it's good to hear that I'm not crazy and that is one of the things that should be maintained in a larger work like a dissertation or even a thesis. So thanks.
The University of Toledo is not like super large, and it is literally a staff of 1 who deals with ET, and that's just a portion of my job. So yeah.
I excuse me, the university I work at is the largest university in my state, but we comparatively have a small graduate school. Like, we have more undergrads than we have grads. So we're working on that, but we'll see. We have some other comments. And again, I apologize if I mispronounce anybody's name. Please feel free to tell me I'm doing it wrong. Kieran says, we also tell students that the uniformity we're looking for is across all theses and dissertations put out by the university, i.e. Ohio University. Tatiana says, we require consistent formatting as listed in our manual. We've only had less than a handful of students push back. Most were in our European campuses or joint programs. We at USF require all chapters in the body be formatted consistently. However, we do allow reprints from previously published journal articles in the appendix. We discourage it, but some, i.e. 2 departments, 1 to 3 reprints. They do always have an introduction though. Wendy asks, and this is a good question we can move to next, what about accessibility in those previously published appendices? How was that handled? Kim says, our documents are turned in as PDFs, and if it was previously published and included, it has to be accessible. The heading of the appendix needs to be heading 1. The tables need to have table summaries that say the number of columns, the number of rows. The header row needs identified, and the figures cannot have AI generated alt text. Cool. And then Arachel says, we have a dissertation handbook that lays out our requirements for the dissertation format. So yes, so Wendy brought up a good question about how is accessibility handled. So anybody want to address accessibility for the previously published materials? And I'll say for my university, we're still banging that out. So that's.
So what you read out that I put in the chat, that's what I'm saying that we do for published materials. I mean, if it's included in the PDF as part of the dissertation, that sucker needs to be accessible. And if you didn't do the work for whatever you previously published, you are doing it for what you're turning in. And that's pretty much, since we have templates and people use them now and stuff, I have a GA, fortunately, that can handle more of the formatting. I'm all accessibility all day long, besides the other parts of my job, like our website and so forth. So.
John asked, why is using AI generated alt text tags bad?
I'm going to answer that. Because they are infamously wrong. They are so wrong that they go 360 around the earth and are double wrong. So I have
Microsoft
mixed
Word
feelings
will
about this.
Microsoft Word will tell you it's a fruit basket when it's a bunch of hot air balloons going in the air. It's that bad.
That is actually somewhat understandable.
Yeah.
I've had, you know, electrical engineers with these complex schematics, you know, and circuits and this and that. And the alt text, you know, says a black box with wires, AI generated, or it says automatically generated with medium confidence. I'm like, if I only had even the medium confidence of this AI generator, oh my gosh. So, but
There are
people
some,
don't know that it's happening. Like they don't know until they're educated about it. And then when you tell them, well, you know, you tell me, is this accurate?
yeah.
Oh, no.
There are some great examples in chat. Wendy said screenshot of a computer. Karen said Word claimed a start was a nuclear blast once for one of her students. That's a dissertation I would write. Uh, John, go ahead.
Oh, so I was just going to say, yeah, I appreciate the knowing the value or relative valuelessness of the AI alt tagging. I thought it was a really interesting feature, though, that I noticed in Microsoft Word. I'm using the Microsoft 365 platform now, like everybody else, but there's an app or whatever, or a third, you know, there's an add-on you can integrate into Microsoft Word that does alt tagging, or at least attempts to use AI to do that. I think it begs one the question that this kind of forces the author, pushes the author to actually recognize alt, tagging is important, and maybe gives them a start. Now, whether the AI is completely off base on it, people have the option, obviously, to tweak that and put their own text. We're in the beginning stages, but I'm impressed that there is some effort toward integrating that into the writing process. And I suppose with time, just as ChatGPT and all these sort of AI applications have improved in their performance and, the breadth of what they can do appropriately, hopefully that will improve too, maybe with the appropriate user feedback. So.
But I
We
was
don't even let them repeat the alt text cannot include what you've already said in the body of the document. If I can't see your document, I don't want to listen to the same information twice. There is a purpose of why you put this figure in there, and it better tell me that it's a pie chart, a bar chart, a box plot, a scatter plot, or whatever it is, and then give me the action or the purpose of why it's there.
I when I was doing when I was putting like the final touches on my quick set of slides, I was thinking about doing like accessibility tags that I'm going to, but I love that the AI suggested for dog on fire, fat crying, uh, men screaming. And I think I might go with those, but no, I won't. Um,
Well, men screaming would at least give you the action.
yeah, exactly. Men screaming, dog on fire. But yeah, I'm not saying I'm not going to go with those, but yeah. So for accessibility, and this is definitely something we talk about. We're all at different stages in our accessibility journey. Like some programs like Kim's are really far ahead, like eons ahead. We're working on ours, and we're doing our best, but we are not in any way advanced, but we are trying. Wendy says ASU has an image accessibility generator that is pretty interesting. Wendy, would you like to talk more about that?
Sure. Sorry, I was having trouble getting my audio on. I've only played with it a little bit myself. I had a student who was struggling to do the accessibility, the alt text for a he had over 200 figures in his document. It was physics related. They were really complex. They made no sense to me at all. And he talked to somebody in the Office of Research who told him about this accessibility generator. And for him, it wound up being really helpful to come up with a reasonable, condensed description. And they have a disclaimer right on it that it doesn't keep their material or anything like that. Um, so, after playing with it a little bit and seeing that it was consistently coming up with decent descriptions, I started sharing it with students who were really struggling. Because we'll get students who write like 2 paragraphs and call that alt text. And then we have others that let the AI generate it. And when you tell them you have to go look at that and fix it, they don't know what you mean. So it's it's complicated.
I hope I can talk. I'm sorry. I just tried what you sent, and I gotta say, can I just share my screen for a moment for what it did? Does anybody care? Because that's amazing. Okay. Um, let's see if I can get this to share. I had taken a screenshot of Sally's upcoming meeting schedule and that slide and dropped it in just to see what it would do. And alt text is supposed to be around 160 words, give or take. It's really not, it's a little long, but it does quote exactly what it says in this slide, which is the most important thing because it can't read the words in a picture. So I'd say that this is pretty doggone cool. And the fact that it's not keeping my info and I can use it and I'm not a member of Arizona State. I
Yeah,
mean,
and it gives you
great.
two choices to have the long description or an even briefer one.
Right. I am impressed. Gotta say. Thank you for sharing that.
Can we drop,
My pleasure.
is there a link to that or something that can be dropped in the,
Yeah, Terry, it's
oh, it
in
just was, I'm sorry.
yeah,
I'm
it's in chat. And I'm going to try that with the dog on fire and see how that goes. So anybody else have anything else they'd like to share about accessibility or anything else you're seeing? Any other issues you're having? While you're thinking about it, I was just going to bring up something we talked about in our last session. One of our colleagues at the University of Central Florida, I don't know if she's in this session, Natalia Bauer, she had a question. Well, she just wanted to see if anyone else was experiencing issues with Word. And by that, I mean encountering a lot of students who did not have a basic understanding of Word. Not advanced understanding, but how to, you know, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something really hard. But anyway, but just simple things about Word. And I've just wanted to see if anybody today has experienced the same thing. Are you working with students who seem to have, very advanced understandings of many other things, but Word is just not high on the list? And if so, how do you have examples? Or do you have, do you have advice on how you fixed it or how you're dealing with it? And while you contemplate that, Kieran says, our biggest issue at, I'm guessing it's Ohio University, is people knowing who we are, that they have to come through us to graduate. Yep. We're working on expanding our marketing and our impact, but it's frustrating because the majority of our problems, dissertations, but it's frustrating because the majority of the problem would be solved by faculty telling their students about us. Yep. I am having that issue right now. And I'm sure a lot of other people are too. And yeah. So yeah,
I've been reaching out to specific faculty where I'm finding in certain departments I'm getting really bad formatting because they're just not using the templates at all. And I have to say, it was absolutely funny. The department that is worst at it, I will not bring up the department, contacted that committee, program committee chair, and they told me, well, we really haven't had any problems in the past 15 years with this. And I said, I've been doing this job for 12, and I contacted you because of what I'm seeing. I think you really would have your students benefit if you just let me come in, if they're not going to go to my Zoom workshops and they're not going to watch the videos on the website, and they're not going to use the templates, then let me come in and talk to them.
Yeah. And John just,
No, we're not having a problem, right?
Yeah. And John asked, how, and if you want to just raise your hands, or if you feel like speaking up, how many of us offer campus workshops on using Microsoft Word? So if you offer workshops already, if you'd like to raise your hand, please do. So we have some of us doing it. Excellent. But I'm kind of in the same boat with Teri. I have a new graduate student. She just started, and I'm hitting something really interesting in working with her. She told me that she basically didn't know that my department existed, that or what we do and how we, why we're here and everything like that. So she mentioned, and it was kind of interesting. She was like, have you ever thought about maybe sending out emails that explain like what your department does and how you can help? I'm like, oh, my sweet summer child. So, and I do. I send out emails to program coordinators. Like I have lists of, all of the program coordinators, and there are for example, with like the College of Humanities and Social Sciences, I send one out to that person who's like in the dean's office, who's the director of graduate student services. But then if I have individual people in individual departments like creative writing, English, psychology, cultural studies, whatever, if they reach out and ask me to send them messages specifically, I do that too. And I did that also with the College of Science. And I don't know how to answer this, because the student who said that she's never gotten any of these emails, and she's been in her program for at least a couple of years. Not only is she in a college that I absolutely send this emails to the person who's like the director of graduate student services for that college, I also send them directly to her like program coordinator. So I don't want to, and if anyone has any ideas about this, I feel weird like contacting the program coordinator and saying, could you prove to me you're sending these? But it makes me wonder, how she should be getting these from two different people and isn't getting them from anybody. And I don't know. Yeah, that's Kim. That's kind of what I wonder, Kim. So because the thing is, I just sent one out like before we had that conversation. I just sent that email out the week before, and she didn't get it. So I don't know. But yeah, I'm gonna scroll back up. But yes, my issue is definitely getting people to realize what my department is. And I think part of the issue is, and Karen, if it says thesis and dissertation services, my department's office is also, it's dissertation and thesis services, but same thing. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but I think people think that my department is just there to help you. It's because it's services. It doesn't pack that you have to do this or you're not going to graduate punch that you need. And I'm also part of university libraries, which again, students often unfortunately look at libraries as a way to help you, but nothing you actually have to do. They're there if you need them, but they're not there because they can do anything for you or because you have to go visit them. So I don't know, but yes. And Karen says, our graduate college newsletter gets sent to all graduate students and our events are highlighted in them every month. Doesn't seem to help people knowing who we are. Absolutely. John says, a new resource from Bill Ingram at Virginia Tech regarding LLMs, evaluating student LLM assignment. Oh, cool. I will have to look at that. Thank you, John. And so scrolling back, and I'm trying to catch up on all the comments. So Teri says you don't offer instruction on MS Word, and yeah, I totally get it. And I mean, because I'm sure you don't have anything else to do, so I don't know why you're not doing that, Teri. Brandy says, we don't cover using Word as a whole, but she has templates and video tutorials explaining how to use our templates. So yeah, and she meets with students individually. So yeah, I have workshops, templates. I'll go visit classes and I'll meet with students individually. Well, I know I need to create video tutorials. And that's on the list of things to do, but it just keeps not getting done.
Sally, can I respond to Brandy's comment?
Oh yeah, please do.
Yeah, thank you. So we have templates and all of that, and I've given classes on how to use the template. But what I've been discovering is that students are no longer really using Word as a tool. Even for just the most, they don't, and it's almost like I feel like they don't even understand the concept of outlining or hierarchy, you know, and so forget about trying to translate that into heading levels, right? Forget about trying to explain how that then relates to accessibility and readability. I mean, they don't even know how to change the font style or size, you know. They don't use the tools like insert caption, you know, they're just typing underneath it, you know, as paragraph text. And I wonder, and I think we've talked about this like on a listserv, you know, this has been a topic of conversation. I've started talking with some faculty, you know, at UToledo, and I really think that, especially, you know, post COVID and students that are coming up now, you know, finishing their undergrad and then entering grad school, they are so used to using sort of these online interfaces that already have built-in editors for them. You know, and of course, if they're submitting anything for publication, the journal has, you know, the editors to whip it into shape. And so they don't have to know about it. They don't have to think about it. And then unfortunately, I think, you know, you can build all the directions you want into your Word template, you know, so that things pop up if they hover over and all of that, you know, examples, and they will just eyeball it and demolish it and then include track changes when they send it back to you after they've converted it to PDF and then reconverted it, exported it out to, you know, to Word again. And then they're like, your template's broken. Yes, our template is broken. So I don't know. I just, you know, I'm frustrated. I'm mystified. How can we provide them? I mean, we give them access, right, for free for Microsoft 365 and whatever, but you know, if they're not using a school computer or they are, you know, using a device, or it's not consistent, you know. And so anyway, I see a lot of nodding heads, so I'm sure.
It's comforting to hear that this is not just me. I think that one of the things we've been trying to do is we've utilized our grad admissions platform to send out mass emails to students. We have a great gal who works on our Slate platform, and she provides us templates so we can send them out. And so then I can go back and check and see if the students have opened the emails or not. And it's not necessarily helpful, but it is like guiding to know if they've been sent the information. I can confirm it. I can see if they've opened it or not and refer them back to it rather than having to resend them all the information all over again. I can send them in there. And so I'm trying to do that more with the faculty as well. But to the comments point earlier, you know, it's very interesting. Like, I understand students are in different positions these days than necessarily I was when I went through school, but it is fascinating the amount of reading comprehension that does not seem to take place during the process. And it would be a whole lot easier for both the students and the faculty if we both read and comprehended those things. So we're in it together, everybody. Solidarity.
And that is honestly what Molly just said. That's one of the reasons that this group exists, and that's why we try to be here for people, because you know, sometimes there isn't an answer, but at least you have people when you tell them what's wrong and why you've gone completely bald on one side of your head. You could they don't worry that something's wrong. They understand that you just ripped that entire side of your hair out when you had to explain what headers and footers are and how to get into them. And yeah, and it's those moments when when you're really happy that you can turn the video off so that you can get the scream pillow out. I don't know if you know what the scream pillow is, but if you do, it's just, yeah, that way you know, and you can just put the video right back on and go, yeah, that's tough, let's look at that. But yes, that's one of the reasons we're here. So we have about 10 minutes left. So if anyone has anything, if anyone has questions, or if anyone would like to know more about what we do, if there's anything that you would like to share, either humorous moments or wins or anything, we'd love to hear it. And or especially if this is your first time at the conference, and if you would like to talk about your experience so far, because it's always everybody's first time somewhere. Or if you have a pet that you would like to bring to the screen that we could all look at and think about. So, but let's see what I was going to talk about. Is that a bearded dragon or a?
Yep, that's my bearded dragon. She's been sitting here for the whole thing.
Oh, good, excellent, excellent. This is also something we do.
Yeah. Oh, kitty.
You. Yes, excellent, excellent. What is your bearded dragon's name?
Cora.
I'm sorry.
Cora.
Cora.
Cora with a K.
Cora with a K. I like that. I like that. Kim, what is Kitty's name?
Sybil.
Sybil?
Sybil is a year old now.
Oh.
And she was pretty young when I got her, so I'm technically her mother. She still likes it if I try to groom her.
Yes.
I mean, I don't literally lick her, but you know. You can
we used to have a cat, her exact
and...
color. We used to have a cat, her exact color, and my mother named her or him. My mother named him Gray because my mother was terrible at naming everything. I'm surprised I wasn't named female baby. So let's see. Stephanie says, everyone has been so helpful. I am just lurking since it's my first time, but how do I join the group again? I'm going to pull that slide back up. Lucas says, first time at the conference, and thank you. This was really great. Lucas, welcome from SUNY Albany. So let me pull that slide for joining back up. And slide share.
And Sally, I'm going to ask you while you're bringing up the
Yes.
slide, if you could just give a brief mention to the LaTeX living book. I think that Larry Teague has been working on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That Larry Teague, I don't know if Larry made it today, but the living book, that is something that started, I guess, was it 23, 22? I don't remember. Anyway, we did one of the plenaries for one of the sessions a few years ago, and Larry was at University of Tennessee Health Science Center. I think he has retired, but I know he's still actively involved with them. And he started writing the living book. And so there is information on our group page about that. And I will share the link in the group page. I'll be sending out an email to everybody who joins the group. So if you haven't already joined the group, please do. But yes, if you are interested in being part of the living book, it's about basically the history of your dissertation and thesis formatting program, or the program that you're in, what you're doing, sharing your department or college or school's formatting guidelines and how you work with students. And so if you'd be interested in being part of that, let me know, and I will definitely put you in contact with Larry. John, would you like to add anything to that?
Nope. I added a link to the community engagement group, and I think Ed has his hand up.
Great, thank you.
Ed,
and yes,
Ed Fox.
Very interesting hearing all this discussion. One of the comments I have is it would be useful for the group to include some people from graduate schools and some faculty, because I think it's good for them to hear some of the concerns that other people have in other places. And I think the real issue behind all this is that the purpose of the whole initiative is to educate students and to help prepare them for a future career, so that they should be literate with the latest technology and be able to publish in other venues as well if they want to do that. If not, at least do that and have that experience. So I think there are certainly different priorities by some faculty members who are really not thinking about this, but the graduate school and the library should, in terms of information literacy and all the different concerns that you've been talking about, want people to be aware of those things and to reflect on them and try to not be argumentative with people who are enforcing some local policies and so on.
Mhm. Very true, very true. And we have, and that's brings me to the conference we had in Colorado in 2018. A colleague at my university at Mason, in the School of Public Policy, she and I decided to do a presentation together. And she actually, it was interesting that she came and because she's completely on the graduate school side. And even though, she at that point worked with the PhD students in their school, um, really thought that our conference is a much more focused thing. Like really, I think she thought we only talked about, I guess, margins a lot. And she didn't realize exactly how far ranging it was. And so I try to evangelize to others and just make sure that they see that this is a much more holistic approach than they think it is. It's not just us talking about margin settings and pagination and, word counts and colors. It's also about, as Dr. Fox said, preparing our students because it's the soft skills that I don't think they think about. And I think, I have so many students who say when I meet with them and, show them how to build a table of contents, how to use headings, how to use styles, they always say, I wish I'd learned about this years ago. And it's something I bring up a lot when I talk to, the provost's office and, administration in the libraries. It would be nice if there were a way that I could go and teach this to students writing theses and dissertations at some set point in their process at the proposal phase or something. And they say that is a good idea.
Yeah, I think generally telling people in advance what they're going to have to do later is always a calmer way to engage people and to make them aware. And I think a lot of new faculty members don't necessarily even think about this, and their first student doesn't know what to do, and they don't bother to check. I think it might be useful on the NDLTD and the USETDA websites to have a page that points to a number of the guidelines around the country and the world, so that if people are looking at this, they'll see, this is kind of the general practice that goes on elsewhere.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Absolutely. And that sort of ties into the project that Larry is fostering. So thank you. And I just want to say to Dr. Fox, thank you also, because when I was interviewing for this job, the job I have right now, I reached out to him and asked basically, what can you tell me about ETDs? And I have my job thanks to Dr. Fox. So thank you.
Well, it's because of you, not me, but thanks very much for the discussion.
So does anyone else have anything to add? Any questions about the group or anything else? Thank you all, and I hope to hear from some people who would like to join the group. I'll add you to our listserv in our group, and I will, and especially if you have something that you would like to share, if you'd like to give a presentation or introduce a discussion topic, we are always ready for that. So thank you to everyone. I appreciate your attending today, and I will see you at the next session.
So Sally, thank you so much for running the show as per usual. And so we're going to take a short 10-minute break. We will resume at 6:40. There will be concurrent session 13, which is the community engagement group meeting. That will be chock full of flash talks. That'll be in the main room. And session 14, AI-driven research transformation in Bangladesh, will be in the breakout room. We will see you back here in 10 minutes.
Great. See you soon. Thank you.